Hi everyone. Hello students. Welcome to Super Grads. I'm your English mentor, Sana Jaffrey. Okay, and I'm back here again with the Hindu editorial analysis. Fine. So I hope you all have been regularly watching these sessions, right? This is going to be my third in the series. And yes, I also expect from you that you have to read on a daily basis. If you follow this one, I'm sure your comprehension will be right on track, right? तो जो objective है आपको already हम बता चुके हैं, and what all things we cover, that also I think you know by now. Okay, so I don't just give you an explanation of the passage. I discuss the main idea. We do mind mapping, that is understanding and identifying the key ideas of every editorial that we cover, right? Apart from that, I also discuss what is the tone of the passage, fine, what is the genre or the domain to be a little more specific, and all the nice words, idioms, and even phrasal verbs that we come across. I demonstrate them properly using some sentences. I tell their synonyms also, fine, along with the meaning, of course. So I hope this way your entire vocabulary is going to enhance. You will have a better hold on your language, and definitely you'll perform much better in your VA section. All right. So, of course, as you can see, this is the editorial page. तो अभी editorial page है, थोड़ा सा देखते हैं, इसको scroll down करते हैं. I particularly found this one very interesting, can of worms. Fine. So this is based on the NEET controversy. So I felt like picking this one up. Another one is, this is again related to the World Population Day. So we had covered some editorial yesterday also on that. So that's why I have picked up another one in the opinion page. I did this. I felt this was very moving. The trauma of covering tragedies. तो कल की तरह आज भी हम बहुत ambitious होकर दो editorials cover करने की कोशिश करेंगे, and I hope that we will succeed. चलो, so let's read it. Can of worms. I hope it's perfectly readable. The font size looks good enough. Okay. So सबसे पहले this heading is so catchy and is so interesting. तो यहीं पे थोड़ी बात करना शुरू करते हैं सबसे पहले. Can of worms is an idiom, an idiomatic expression, and this actually means that you are inviting trouble. It's like, you know, आप कोई मुसीबत का पिटारा है, उसमें हाथ डाल रहे हो, as if, you know, the more you get into it, the more problematic a situation will become. So such things where it's better not to really rake issues up, that kind of a situation is called can of worms, because we know that the moment जितना ज़्यादा हम उसमें involve होंगे उतनी ज़्यादा ही problems हमारी बढ़ती जाएंगी, right? This is called can of worms. And you know what? आपके एग्जाम में of course idioms hold a very high weightage. You must be already aware of this, and so it's a good idea to learn some similar idiomatic expressions. So can of worms के अलावा there is another very popular one, Pandora's box. Now this has some mythological roots actually. In Greek mythology there was Pandora, and Pandora jo thi, she was like a Greek goddess, and she had a box. She was the character in Greek mythology, to be precise. She had a box that had all the evils. Fine. So जब हम कहते हैं opening the Pandora's box, मतलब वही बातें हैं कि बहुत सारी मुसीबतें निकल के आ जाएंगी. ठीक है? Another similar idiom is let sleeping dogs lie. Now, what does let sleeping dogs lie mean? If a dog is sleeping somewhere, you would, of course, try to just, you know, pass by that without disturbing the dog. Otherwise, if the dog gets up, the dog may bite you, or, of course, will at least, you know, bark at you. Fine. So, कोई problem है, unnecessarily उसको छेड़ो मत. Otherwise, this might lead to a lot many problems coming up. Fine. So let sleeping dogs lie. Matlab, don't disturb things, otherwise you will get into more problem, bigger problem, right? So aren't they all similar in some or the other way? Even stir up the hornet's nest. ये भी बढ़िया है. This is our English equivalent of मधुमक्खी के छत्ते में हाथ डालना, है ना? Again, very akin to or equivalent to inviting troubles, right? तो चलिए ठीक है, बहुत ज्ञान हो गया इस सिंपल सी हेडिंग के ऊपर. देखिए, there's so much to learn in language. The government must ensure greater transparency in NEET. I hope you know about the word transparency. When you're transparent, everybody, the public, and everybody can see through what is happening. And when government hides things, when they don't acknowledge, when they don't come up with answers directly, right? That, of course, is hampering transparency. So, as I've always told you, that such headings and subtitles, they actually speak volumes about the content of the passage. So we know कि passage किस बारे में है. Trust can be everything in governance. The can of worms that split open with the publication of results of the NEET UG 2024 has elevated is increased the entrance examination for medical and dental seats to a metaphor for distrust in the system among the people. Now, there's a very nice expression, okay, that NEET is now a metaphor for distrust. Metaphor के बारे में आप लोग जानते हो ना? Fine. Your words are honey to my ears. Your words are honey. दो unequal चीजों को जब आप same बता देते हो, विदाउट द यूज ऑफ लाइक इन सच एंड एज, तो वो मेटाफर होता है. लेकिन यहां पर किस तरह से बोल रहे हैं वो, कि मतलब नीट एग्जाम को डिस्ट्रस्ट के से इक्वेट कर दिया कि ये तो यार उपमा बन गई है. उपमा ही कहता है ना मेटाफर को, कि तो डिस्ट्रस्ट के लिए ना दिस नीट इज नाउ इक्विवेलेंट टू डिस्ट्रस्ट. जिस लेवल पे लोगों का जिसको मैं कहती हूँ भरोसा शेकअप हो गया है उसके बारे में. दिस ईयर dogged by accusations or allegations. Accusation क्या होता है? Allegations. We discussed allegations yesterday of paper leak, malpractices, and technical failures. Besides the grant of grace marks to some students, NEET, which was conceived to homogenize selection on merit, has now morphed into a beast that is far removed from its original idea. We get some nice words here, so we'll keep on discussing these words, right? तो ये क्या बोलता है हमसे कि ये साल तो बहुत सारे एक्यूजेशंस लग गए, एलिगेशंस लग गए, इल्जाम लग गए कि पेपर लीक हुआ है, मैल प्रैक्टिसेस हुई है. मैल प्रैक्टिस मतलब रॉन्ग प्रैक्टिस, है ना? एनी काइंड ऑफ रॉन्ग डूइंग एंड टेक्निकल फेलियर्स, और ग्रेस मार्क्स भी जो स्टूडेंट्स को दिए गए. तो अब नीट जिसका ऑब्जेक्टिव क्या था कि वो होमोजेनाइज करेगा, होमोजेनाइज किसी चीज को होमोजेनियस बनाना, right? मतलब same जैसा बनाना. तो they actually wanted to create a platform where students from different states and studying in different board exams and all that, there would be a common platform, and on the basis of merit we would be cherry picking students. So that was the objective, that was the conception, okay, that was the idea or the plan behind the formulation of NEET examination. But unfortunately, because of all these things that have happened, right, it has morphed, or it has morphed ka matlab hota transformed or changed into a beast. Now, अब आपको क्या लगता है, which literary device is being used here? उन्होंने बोल दिया है कि नीट तो एक बीस्ट बन गया है. तो अगेन मैं बोलूंगी ये क्या है, फिर से एक मेटाफर का इस्तेमाल हुआ कि नीट को एक बीस्ट ही बना दिया, राइट? That is far removed from its original idea. Far removed from, it's very different from its original idea. Because कितनी अब इक्वालिटी कहाँ रही, जिसके पास में पेपर लीक हो गया, जैसा लोग क्लेम कर रहे हो, जैसा लग रहा है, तो obviously some people had the advantage, straight advantage. Fine, while others were poor people who were just trying hard, right? So this is the reason why they are saying that this is very different from the original idea. Fine, okay. The Supreme Court of India on Thursday rescheduled the NEET UG hearing to July 18 to address complaints regarding irregularities and malpractices during the exam conducted by the NTA. A CBI investigation into the charges is ongoing. Meanwhile, the center has leaned heavily on a report, a data analysis submitted by IIT Madras, examining the results to see if malpractices have occurred. CBI investigation is underway. That is undergoing. Okay, that's ongoing. Center ने very interestingly, अच्छा yeah, Supreme Court ने भी क्या तारीख रख दी है, July 18, that they will hear the complaints regarding the irregularities in NEET exam on July 18. Meanwhile, Center is heavily relying on a report. It's a data analysis that was submitted by IIT Madras. Okay, और उसके फाइंडिंग्स क्या है ये अभी आगे है, ठीक है। The report's executive summary claimed, this is very important, that there was no abnormality that was discovered in a center, and city-wise analysis that was done for 2 years. The analysis was carried out for the top 1.4 lakh ranks in the country. It further stated that there was no evidence of either mass malpractice or a localized set of candidates benefiting. अब आप ये सुनिए, सेंटर को तो ऑब्वियसली ये रिपोर्ट अच्छी लगेगी ही और लग भी रही है, और ये रिपोर्ट कह रही है कि नहीं कुछ भी एबनॉर्मेलिटीज नहीं है, कोई डेविएशंस नहीं है, ना ही रिपोर्ट के थ्रू ऐसा कुछ पता चला that there is any particular city that has benefited anyhow because of the leak of the paper, right? They एग्जामिन 1.4 लाख रैंक्स तक उन्होंने सबका दिया, उनको कुछ भी ऐसा कोई एविडेंस नहीं लगा कि मास लेवल पे कोई भी मैल प्रैक्टिस हुई है. The overall increase of marks among students, a charge that was laid out initially, is attributed to. When we say something is attributed to, we are putting it up as the cause. And this is the cause. Okay. So the increase of marks जो था among students ये क्या है? This is because of the 25% reduction in syllabus, and it confirms that this occurred across multiple cities. एक सिटी में ऐसा नहीं हुआ, लीक भी होगा तो एकदम से नेशनल लेवल पे एकदम से तो हो नहीं सकता, राइट? तो वो यही बोल रहा है कि जो हुआ भी है, अगर बहुत ज्यादा मार्क्स आए हैं, so that is because the syllabus had been reduced considerably, and of course this is the increase in marks is uniformly across different cities. However, outrage among student applicants on social media continues. Now, student applicants are, of course, outraged by this. What do you mean by outrage? When there is a state of shock and dismay and anger. Public outrage is a very common word, right? So, of course, students बहुत गुस्सा हैं. While it is no stranger to controversy, with states opposing it, the charges that have been leveled against it this year have had the effect of invoking distrust against the test among a larger subset of Chari students across the country. Now, what are Chari students? They are, very cautious and careful students, right? So, what it is saying that NEET is no new to controversy. नीट के साथ में कहीं ना कहीं controversy हमेशा से ही रही है. It's not the first time, but this time the charges are really grim and serious, and this is invoking distrust. Invoke will be discussing this word, है ना? Here in this context, it is causing distrust, okay, among more and more number of students, right? And that too very serious and cautious and careful kind of students, right? So more and more people are now in the fold where they don't really have trust in NEET examination. The only way to move forward from here is to ensure that the issue is debated threadbare on public platforms. Threadbare, a nice thing. That means completely openly, transparently, without anything shrouding it or covering it, right? On public platforms, and all doubt is removed. Instead of trying to sweep the worms that have spilled out under the carpet, sweep under the carpet. When you brush something under the carpet or sweep under the carpet, ये भी बहुत प्यारा expression है. This means that you're trying to hide things. है ना? हम झाड़ू दे रहे होते हैं, कुछ कचरा है अगर, तो वो आपकी जो मेड होगी कभी देखना हो सकता है कि वो कारपेट के अंदर उसको अंडर द रग कर रही है, ठीक है? सो दिस इज लाइक जो वर्म स्पिल हो गए हैं तो आप उसको हाइड करने की कोशिश कर रहे हो, ये मत करो. इनफैक्ट ओपनली डिबेट करो पब्लिक प्लेटफॉर्म पे. लाउड डिनायल्स ऑफ मैल प्रैक्टिस शुड बी मैच्ड विद द विलिंगनेस टू एंगेज विद दोज अफेक्टेड इन अ पब्लिक फोरम एंड प्रोवाइड क्लैरिफिकेशंस. Now, what is happening? Loudly, people are like denying malpractice. Who would be denying? Of course, the authorities and all the functionaries involved in this, right? So don't deny malpractice, but in fact, be willing to debate. Come on the public forum, be threadbare, right? And provide clarifications. Fine. Where errors have taken place, as is possible in an exercise of this scale, it behoves a proper acknowledgement and apology. So the author here very categorically says that, see, this is an exam of a very huge or a very lofty scale, I must say. And at such a humongous scale, mistakes are bound to happen. So if at all mistakes have taken place, acknowledge them, accept them, and apologize. When trust is violated, the reparation for it should sometimes be utter honesty. The only way you can actually make up for the lack of Trust is, being honest. For the longer term, the government must introduce greater limpidity in the examination process. Now it's telling you the way ahead कि भैया अब जो हो गया, अब future में क्या चीज हमको नहीं करनी है, right? Limpidity is, clarity or transparency. So now the government has to be even more and more clear and transparent in the examination process and make sure that the NT and its line agencies remain committed to maintaining transparency. It might also be the opportunity to set right other issues raised about the conduct of the examination itself, including security checks on students. So this is a time when you can actually revamp the entire process. So it's a good opportunity where the system, the NTA, must actually check each and every step that it does. For example, security check जिस तरह से स्टूडेंट्स के साथ में करते हैं उस पर भी काफी बातें उठी हैं, ठीक है, तो उन सारी चीजों को एक रिवैम्प करना चाहिए, ठीक है. दैट इज द एंटायर सजेशन दैट हैज बीन मेड इन दिस पैसेज, राइट. तो आई एम श्योर आपको पैसेज समझ में आ गया. अब चलते हैं इस पैसेज के और बेटर डिटेल्ड एनालिसिस की तरफ, वेयर आई विल बी डिस्कसिंग विद यू व्हाट the main idea, and along with that the all the mind mapping and the additional things that we do. Chalo, let's begin. So yes, this was it, can of worms. Main idea कैसे put up किया है मैंने. The allegations of malpractices and paper leaks in NEET have led to distrust among the students. While the CBI probe is on, SU will hear the plea on complaints about NEET soon. The authorities must be transparent and communicative and ensure such blunders don't repeat in future. Right? So I think बहुत ही comprehensively हमने उसको सिर्फ 2 sentences में 2 to 3 sentences we have put up main idea. Ideally main idea should not be longer than this. Okay. Tone क्या होगी? Well, while the tone of course is critical, but then it also has a substantial element of giving advice. Okay, the passage is through and through recommending, while a part of it is telling you about what has happened. Essentially, the tone, which is the attitude or the emotion that is displayed towards the subject of discussion. So, of course, the tone is advisory, right? The author is advising NEET what should be their course of action, right? So, tone is advisory. Domain or genre. Domain refers to the subject matter in general. So while genre is essentially more about, stylistic devices that you use and overall the category, is it international relations, fine, is this polity, genre can be varied, is this literature or literary analysis hai, kya hai, so is this fiction or what essentially it is. So domain slash genre करके मैंने bracket किया. It's an opinion piece, of course, on educational policy, education policy and governance. So essentially all that we bring here are going to be opinion pieces, or editorials, but they are essentially on governance. Policy and governance is the domain. ठीक है, चलिए. Mind mapping, the key points have been put up here. Allegations of paper leaks and malpractices have caused distrust in NEET UG 2024 results. Supreme Court and CBI are investigating the issues. Analysis of IIT Madras found no significant abnormalities. Requires transparency. What requires? The government needs to do this, or the system requires transparency and public debate to restore trust. Shying away or brushing things under the carpet is no recourse, right? Need for long-term transparency and better security measures. Mistakes shouldn't recur. जो भी mistakes हुई हैं हमें नहीं उसको दोबारा होने देना है. So we'll have to be more stringent at every step, right? So I have so nicely put up things here कि कैसे एक लंबे चौड़े editorial which was stuffed with lofty and ornate language, fine, we have come up with the most important points. अगर पैसेज हम पढ़ते हैं और इस तरह से क्लैरिटी होती है ना पॉइंट वाइज हमारे दिमाग में, तो हम भूलते भी नहीं है, और दिस इज द लेवल ऑफ कॉम्प्रिहेंशन दैट इज एक्सपेक्टेड ऑफ यू. फाइन, आई होप आप जैसे जैसे सेशंस देखते जाएंगे यू विल डेफिनेटली इंप्रूव योर कॉम्प्रिहेंशन. आप खुद से ये करने लग जाएंगे. चलिए ठीक है, वर्ड्स देखते हैं. vocabulary vortex पे आते हैं. Homogenize. हमने homogenize किया. Discuss तो ये सारे words कर लिए थे, so I will quickly go through them. Okay. Homogenize करना, to make something homogeneous or same, uniform or similar. Often when you try to blend different elements and make a complete whole, right? That is homogenizing. The goal of the new educational reforms is to homogenize the curriculum across all schools in the country. We want to make it homogeneous. ठीक है, सारे अलग अलग करिकुलम है, तो गोल क्या है कि भाई सबको सेम कर दो. ठीक है. Synonym: standardize, uniformize, equalize, integrate. ठीक है. Conceive is a nice word. What is to conceive? When you form an idea, plan or concept in your mind, you conceive a plan. दूसरा conceive तो of course आप जानते हो. Okay, when a woman becomes pregnant, she conceives. Okay, that's different, but mostly conceive इस way में बहुत popularly use होता है, right? Even when you say conception, it's a conception. The common conception is, so you're talking about an idea or a concept, right? The architect conceived a brilliant new concept for the city skyline using modern materials. So architect ने पूरी city की skyline, कैसे उसके skyscrapers होंगे and all that, उसका बहुत अच्छा एक idea सोचा है, okay, using all those modern materials of architecture. State of the art technology use करते हुए. Synonyms: formulate, devise, imagine, come up with. Simple. Morphed. Morphed word का भी इस्तेमाल हुआ था. Morphed images, morphed videos तो हम सुनते ही हैं. Morphed is जब कोई चीज transform होती है gradually but radically. So undergo a gradual yet significant transformation in your form or shape. That is transformed. आप sentence देखो भाई. Over the years, the small startup morphed into a multinational corporation with offices around the world. So the small startup, this actually transformed into an MNC over the years. Synonyms, बहुत प्यारे synonyms हैं, याद रखना. Transmuted, ठीक है. Metamorphose, there's something called metamorphosis. Okay, एक book का भी नाम है, कभी time मिले तो पढ़ना. If you're into reading something higher, of some high level of difficult language, then metamorphosis आप पढ़ सकते हो. Evolve, mutate, mutation भी हो जाता है ना, sudden change हो जाता है. So these are going to be nice or good enough synonyms for this word. Outrage, a strong feeling of shock, anger, or indignation. Indignation is also when you're very annoyed and angry. The scandal led to public outrage and vociferous demands. Vociferous is very loud demands for resignation of the minister. Synonyms: fury, resentment, provocation. Outrage can be used both as a noun also and as a verb also. There's outrage among the public, or you can say the public was outraged. You can use it both ways, but meaning same hai. Invoke is a nice word. Invoke is to call on, pray to. Okay, you invoke the deities. आप देवी देवताओं को पुकार रहे हो. Invoking the authorities, उनको पुकारना, urging them to take some action, or you try to appeal to it, right? Or bring about, to cause something to happen, can also be invoke. Multiple उसके वो हैं, but invoking आप या तो you are appealing, or you are making a request, you are praying, or maybe you are making something happen through your actions. That is invoke. The ancient ritual involved invoking the spirits of the ancestors. पुकार रहे हो तुम spirits को, भैया आइए हमें दर्शन दीजिए, and all those things. Fine. Synonyms: supplicate, entreat. Entreat is also to urge. Solicit. Solicit is to request. अच्छा वर्ड है, बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट वर्ड्स हैं ये सारे. Behove, duty or responsibility. It's more like an obligation that you have, or something which is appropriate, or something which is very suitable. Okay, look at the sentence. It ill behoves opposition members to stall the progress of the beneficial bill. Stall is to stop, रोड़े अटकाना, impede करना, block करना. So it says it ill behoves opposition members. Is not, as we say, this is a misfit. ऐसा करना नहीं चाहिए. It is inapt. इट इज इनअप्रोप्रिएट कि ऑपोजिशन मेंबर्स इतना अच्छा बिल है उसमें भी वो क्या कर रहे हैं, उसकी प्रोग्रेस को रोकने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं कि बिल लॉ ना बन पाए, जान लगा रहे हैं. Synonyms: oblige, befit, be appropriate, be incumbent on. When something is incumbent on you, कहीं ना कहीं उसका मतलब है कि you're bound to do that. Fine, that's behove. Limpidity, a nice word, clear, transparent, especially in expression or comprehension, in terms of understanding. When something is really very clear. The teacher's lectures were known to be limpid and riveting. लिम्पिड तो है ही, क्लियर है ही, साथ में बहुत एंगेजिंग है, रिविटिंग है. ओके. Synonyms: lucidity, pellucidity, clarity. So that's all. We now move to the next editorial. So this is our next editorial. Okay, and I think I'll have to zoom out a bit so that I don't block the view. You should be able to read it. Yes, I think that's better. No. Okay, better, better. Now you get a full view of this article. The trauma of covering tragedies. Reporters lurch from one unfortunate event to the next with little time to process the incident or mourn the death. Fine. So this is about, this is written from the perspective of the reporters. Okay. एंड यहाँ पे जो रिपोर्टर हैं, जो जो राइटर हैं, द ऑथर हैं इशिता मिश्रा, उन्होंने खुद अपना एक्सपीरियंस नरेट किया है. एंड दिस इज द बैकड्रॉप हियर इज द बैकग्राउंड हियर is the Hathras tragedy, the stampede that took place. We all know about it. A very tragic incident took place, right? तो वो अपना एक्सपीरियंस नरेट कर रही है that it is sometimes very traumatic to cover tragedies, but how the reporters have to be resilient, how they have to control their emotions, and with empathy, with sensitivity, they have to also work on the accountability. Okay, so detail में चीजें लिखी हुई हैं. पूरा मैं आपको लाइन बाय लाइन नहीं बताऊंगी दिस टाइम. I'll just tell you the mind mapping. अभी थोड़ा सा ऊपर से मैं आपको समझा रही हूँ because language also fine. तो बता रहे हैं कि किस तरह से जो Hathras in UP, here the stampede when it took place, the social media was full of visuals of bodies scattered all around, and most of them were women and children. Fine. And then it's telling you that this was of course a religious gathering of a god man. Fine. जो उनके जो भक्त थे वो अटेंड करने गए थे. But then as when they were going out, there was a stampede, and it was perhaps the worst stampede in recent times in India, and the bodies of women and children were piling up in mortuaries. Mortuaries क्या होते हैं? Morgues या मुर्दा घर. ठीक है. And Hathras, being a very small town, it was not equipped to handle this, so of course the bodies were sent to Agra, Etah and nearby areas. The death toll was a staggering 121 people. So around 121 persons lost their lives in this. Fine. Now, the author, who is a journalist, she had to take a cab to the site to cover this entire news. And of course, she was very upset to see the scenario, right? People looking for their family members. And she gives you narrates a personal incident of a man who lost his 10-year-old daughter. Fine. The writer felt, that the writer was shaken up. She was all soaked in blood and all that, right? As reporters, we are expected to be stoic in such instances. Stoicism over a long period of time can make people numb. Perhaps that is our coping mechanism. So, stoic hona kya hota hai? When you are so strong inside that you almost become impassive to any kind of stimulus, and you totally become emotionless at a point of time. So she says that as reporters we sometimes become numb. We are supposed to be stoic, but that is how we can cope, that is how we can take it, right? And then people were wailing, were crying loudly. Fine. Trying to look for their family member. The news of the tragedy must be told with empathy. Empathy के साथ में बताना चाहिए. while holding those responsible accountable, even if the world moves on to another tragedy the next day. तो यही कह रहे हैं कि one after the other tragedies take place. So news based on tragedy should be covered with empathy. Empathy I've already discussed with you, right? But at the same time, you have to pin down the accountability. Who was responsible for it? Fine. Even in hospitals, there were long queues. People were searching for their loved ones. And of course, either hospitals or morgues were the two places where they would look for their missing family members. And this entire thing was very traumatic. And the people who had missed their relatives were not ready to eat anything. Such was the scenario. And then it says that even the villagers had gathered and they were telling you each and every detail of the incident. Um, Prominent people were visiting the site and only taking photos. So this was also disturbing. अब जर्नलिस्ट होते हुए यू कैन नॉट फोकस ओनली ऑन द ट्रॉमा. आपको बहुत सारी चीजें करनी है. यू हैव टू कवर द पुलिस इन्वेस्टिगेशन. निरतः डिस्ट्रॉट का मतलब होता है व्हेन यू आर extremely sad and upset about something. You are distraught. Okay. You are either struck by some tragedy. Okay. So that is the state of helplessness and despair that you are into. That is you are distraught. Fine. तो ये कह रहे हैं कि हमको तो अरेस्ट्स भी पूरी देखनी थी. हमें ये भी कवर करना था कि क्या कॉम्पनसेशन दिया जा रहा है टू विक्टिम्स फैमिलीज. एंड दिस वाज द हार्डेस्ट पार्ट. एंड वी वर कोऑपरेटिंग आल्सो. There is despair, there's always a ray of hope. एक story पप्पू सिंह की जहाँ पे he had his mother and some relative was missing. Finally, he called up to tell that वो वापस आ गए थे. The hardest part of reporting on tragedies is that we lurch or we shift from one to the next with little time to process or even mourn the death. As reporters, our job is to tell stories and chase deadlines. There is little time to reflect or heal. What is to reflect? To deeply think about something. So as reporters, it is so challenging. The writer is expressing the trauma that they have actually witnessed while covering this incident, but then they know that they have to be stoic. They have to. There's so little time for them to process. They have to chase deadlines, so they cannot think or they cannot even feel the pain for a very long time. Fine. So nice article. It was very touching. It was very emotional. काफी टाइम बाद ऐसा एक आर्टिकल हाथ लगा है. तो मैंने सोचा आपके साथ डिस्कस किया जाए. द ट्रॉमा ऑफ कवरिंग डेथ्स. इसको बस ऊपर ऊपर से देखते हैं. मेन आइडिया क्या है? इन द वेक ऑफ द हाथरस स्टैम्पीड द ऑथर एक्सप्रेसेस the challenges and trauma faced by journalists reporting on tragic events, highlighting the need for empathy and accountability in their reporting. Of course, empathy important hai. You have to feel the pain. The author with his personal capacity was trying their best to help the people there. Lekin at the same time, accountability is very important. There are deadlines to be met. Okay, बहुत proper reporting होनी होती है. ठीक है? Tone is very poignant. It means touching. Touching in the sense emotionally touching. और इसको कहते हैं emotionally moving. थोड़ा सैड लग रहा है बिकॉज इट्स कवरिंग अ ट्रेजेडी और उसका बहुत ही इमोशनल एस्पेक्ट लेके आ रहे हैं. तो ओवरऑल टोन हमें पैसेज पढ़ के कैसी फीलिंग आ रही है ना, सैड सी फीलिंग आ रही है थोड़ी सी. डोमेन जॉनरा इज रिपोर्टेज ऑन ट्रेजेडी. It's a reportage or it's journalism basically based on a tragedy, right? These are the important points. After reading the passage, if you could crystallize these key ideas from the passage, nothing like it, that means you're already reading like a pro. Okay. So, tragic stampede in Hathras, UP resulted in 121 deaths, mostly women and children. Reporters faced traumatizing scenes, personal stories of loss and grief. Stoicism, necessary coping mechanism for reporters because there are continuous tragedies that they have to cover. Reporting requires empathy, accountability, despite the emotional toll. Toll, how, take a toll is a very nice expression. Anything that is negatively affecting you is taking a toll on you. Fine. So long working hours, without any breaks, and a lot of stress is taking a toll on Anand's mental and physical health. That means it is actually affecting his mental and physical health, right? So I was just telling you about this expression, which is a very important one. Journalists cover the immediate tragedy, follow up on investigations, and support victims' families. Right? These are the important points, class. And that's all for today. I hope you enjoyed the session. We read two editorials together. Make sure that you jot down all the words and idioms and expression that I discussed with you. And please try to implement mind mapping in whatever you read. Fine. So it's time to sign off. And I'll catch you tomorrow again. Okay, in my next session. Okay, thank you so much. We'll take a break on Saturday, Sunday, but then I'll be back soon. Bye bye. Take care.